Ragnar Lothbrok. His name has outlasted most of recorded history. Whether the man behind it ever actually existed is a different question entirely. Most historians treat Ragnar as a legendary figure. Some believe he was a composite built from several real Viking chieftains. Others believe he was one person, so heavily embellished over the centuries that the truth is now unreachable. Every source that describes him was written long after he supposedly lived. No contemporary record confirms him as a real individual. What the sagas agree on is how he died. After a raid on Northumbria went catastrophically wrong, Ragnar was captured by a king named Ella around 865 AD. Ella's method of execution was not quick. He threw Ragnar alive into a pit of venomous serpents. According to the sagas, Ragnar laughed. He mocked his captor with his final breath and spoke a curse straight at Ella. His sons were already coming for revenge. Whether any of this is real history, no scholar can say. What is certain is that the story has endured for over 1,000 years. A warrior who faced death, laughing. That image has never lost its power. Ivar the Boneless. Nobody could agree on what his name meant. Everyone agreed on what he was. His nickname has puzzled historians for centuries. Some historians link it to remarkable physical agility. Others point to a bone condition. A few suggest something else entirely. Whatever it meant, the exact origin is still debated, and nobody has settled it. What is not debated is what he built. Ivar helped lead the great heathen army that stormed England in 865 AD. They turned the country upside down in a matter of years. He then moved his base to Dublin. Irish annals recorded him as a ruler of real authority. He was a king who dominated both Norse and Irish politics across the region. For a man with that kind of reach, his death feels almost like an insult to his reputation. Recorded somewhere between 870 and 873 AD, Ivar did not fall on any battlefield. He did not go down fighting on some distant shore. He died of a sudden illness. No sword, no axe, no last stand. The sagas had nothing dramatic to say about it. Sometimes that silence is the most unsettling part of all. Rollo of Normandy. He raided Francia so relentlessly that the Frankish king eventually ran out of answers. Giving Rollo land seemed smarter than fighting another war. In 911 AD, the Treaty of Saint-Clair-sur-Epte made him the first ruler of Normandy. In exchange, he converted to Christianity and pledged to defend the region. The Viking who had terrorized French coastlines for decades became a Christian duke. One of the earliest writers to describe him was a medieval chronicler named Dudo. He reported that shortly before his death, Rollo ordered the sacrifice of Christian prisoners to the Norse gods. This account belongs to later narrative tradition rather than confirmed fact. But that kind of story does not get invented about a man who fully let go of his old ways. Rollo died sometime in the 930s, exact year uncertain, and very likely of old age. The pagan warlord who died as a Christian duke hedged his bets right to the very end. His descendants would not hesitate at all. Within 150 years, they conquered England and changed European history entirely. The duchy he founded still bears his name today. Eric Bloodaxe. He earned his name in blood, and he lost his crown the same way. Eric rose to the Norwegian throne after his father, Harald Fairhair, died. According to saga tradition, he fought through dynastic rivals to claim it. How many died along the way is disputed. The sagas are vivid about it. The historical record is considerably less certain. What is certain is that it did not hold. A rival king named Hakon the Good eventually drove Eric out of Norway entirely. Eric landed in England and carved out a new position for himself. He ruled Northumbria from York on 2 separate occasions. A Viking warlord on an English throne, far from everything he had known. His final end came at the Battle of Stainmore in 954 AD, fought across the bleak moorland of northern England. Later accounts say he was killed through treachery rather than open combat. A man named Maccus is linked to his death. He was reportedly acting on behalf of an English earl who had grown tired of Eric's presence. He had clawed his way to a throne. Another man's betrayal was what ended it. Harold Bluetooth. He united the Danish tribes, brought Christianity to an entire nation, and built his legacy in stone. Those stones still stand. The Jelling stones in Jutland are his permanent declaration to history. They record that he united Denmark and brought it into the Christian faith. For a Viking ruler to carve that into stone was extraordinary. They remain among the most significant monuments in all of Scandinavia. Harald extended his reach into Norway and built a kingdom that felt permanent. It was not. His own son tore it apart. Sweyn Forkbeard led a revolt against him, and Harald was wounded in the fighting. He had built Denmark into something powerful over decades of work. He fled all of it. He died in exile around 986 AD, somewhere in Pomerania in modern-day Poland. far from the kingdom he had spent his entire life constructing. On a lighter note, the Bluetooth technology you use every day is named after him. The logo even combines his runic initials. He would not recognize the world it connects, but his name is quietly embedded in all of it. Sigurd the Stout. He carried a banner said to guarantee his army a victory and guarantee its carrier a death. Sigurd was the Earl of Orkney, a Norse lord who had built real authority across the Northern Islands. The Raven Banner was his most famous possession. According to saga tradition, it had been crafted by his mother with dark intent. Any force that marched behind it would win. The man who carried it into battle would not live to see the result. The Battle of Clontarf on April 23, 1014, put the legend to the test. Sigurd led his forces to Ireland, fighting alongside Dublin Norse warriors against Brian Boru's coalition. Before the battle began, not one of his men would carry the banner. Every one of them knew exactly what picking it up would mean, so Sigurd picked it up himself. He was killed shortly after, his body left on an Irish field far from home. Whether the banner was genuinely cursed, or whether that detail was added later to explain his death, nobody can say. What the sagas recorded was a man who made the choice himself. If these deaths have kept you watching this far, hit subscribe before we continue. Sweyn Forkbeard. He conquered England and was dead inside 6 weeks. Sweyn was Harold Bluetooth's son, the same man who had driven his own father off the throne. He had already claimed his father's Danish kingdom. England was the next step. In 1013, he forced King Ethelred the Unready out of the country and seized control of England. He was never formally crowned. No ceremony, no coronation, no moment where England was officially and legally his. He died on the 3rd of February, 1014, at Gainsborough. The exact cause is not recorded. Later traditions mention a sudden collapse, a fever, or even a vision that came before his death. None of it can be confirmed. What is known is that he had held England for barely 6 weeks. Then it was gone. Ethelred was called back from exile, and the whole conquest had to start over. His son Canute came back years later and completed every campaign Sweyn had started. Every throne his father had almost reached, Canute kept. The father conquered a country and never once sat in it. Freydis Eiriksdottir. She was Eric the Red's daughter and Leif Erikson's half-sister. She may also be the most dangerous person ever to set foot in Vinland. The Norse had been attempting to establish a settlement in Vinland for years. Freydis was part of one of those attempts. She was not the explorer in this story. She was the problem that followed the explorers. According to the saga of the Greenlanders, Freydis traveled to Vinland alongside 2 Norse brothers named Helgi and Finnbogi. What began as a shared expedition ended in a massacre. Freydis allegedly engineered a conflict that left the brothers and their entire crew dead. When her own men refused to kill the women in the group, Freydis reportedly picked up an axe. She handled it herself. The saga says she returned to Greenland and threatened anyone who dared speak a word about what had happened. This is saga literature, not confirmed history. It cannot be independently verified, but the portrait it paints is too precise and too consistent to be easily dismissed. She is the only woman in this entire video. She may be its most chilling subject. What happened to Freydis after that is simply not known. The sagas go completely silent. No recorded death, no final moment, no last word from anyone who knew her. For a woman who had done what she allegedly did, that silence is somehow the most unsettling ending of all. History swallowed her whole and never said a word about it. Olaf Haraldsson, Norway's patron saint, was killed by Norwegians. Olaf brought Christianity to Norway with genuine conviction and with considerable force. He was not gentle about the conversion. Those who refused were coerced. Those who pushed back harder faced something worse. Whether you call it faith or brutality depended entirely on which side of his decisions you were standing on. A coalition of Norwegian chieftains who had grown tired of him eventually joined forces. Olaf was driven out of his own kingdom. He returned in 1030 to reclaim it. That decision killed him. On July 29, 1030, he met his former subjects at the Battle of Stiklestad. He was badly outnumbered, and he did not survive. According to Snorri Sturluson's account, written roughly 2 centuries later, Olaf was struck by 3 weapons at once: a spear, a sword, and an axe. The dramatic detail belongs to saga tradition. The death itself is not in dispute. He was canonized in 1031, just 1 year after Stiklestad. A pilgrimage site grew at his tomb in Nidaros, modern-day Trondheim. It became one of medieval Europe's most visited holy destinations. The Norwegians who killed him in battle made him a saint the following year. Canute the Great. No Viking before him and no Viking after him ever controlled as much power. At his peak, Canute held England, Denmark, and Norway, and wielded significant influence over parts of Sweden as well. He assembled that empire without losing a single major battle. For his time, that record was extraordinary. Most people know him for the tide story. He sat at the water's edge, commanded the waves to stop, and they did not. Most people misread it completely. He was not claiming power over nature. He was making a point to the courtiers surrounding him, the ones who kept flattering him. He did not trust the praise, and he wanted them to understand why. He was showing them that even a king has limits. No throne on earth gives you authority over the sea. Canute died on November 12, 1035 at Shaftesbury. He was somewhere between 37 and 40 years old. The likely cause was kidney disease, though the exact record is not certain. He was buried at Winchester Cathedral. Within a few years, the empire was gone. His sons divided it, then fought each other for the pieces and destroyed everything that remained. The greatest Viking empire in history outlasted its builder by almost nothing. Harald Hardrada. Most historians mark his death as the symbolic end of the Viking Age. Before the Norwegian throne, Harald had already lived a life that read like a saga. He served as a Varangian guard for the Byzantine emperor, fighting across Russia, the Mediterranean, and North Africa. By the time he set his sights on England in 1066, he had a reputation that unsettled kings. He invaded that year. The Battle of Fulford Gate went his way easily, and his forces pushed deep into Northumbria. He expected more time than he was given. King Harold Godwinson marched his English army north at a pace nobody had predicted. He covered the distance in days that should have taken weeks. He struck the Vikings at Stamford Bridge on September 25, 1066. Many of Harold's men were caught completely unprepared. Armor off. No warning. According to the sagas, an arrow to the throat killed Harold early in the fighting. 300 ships had brought his forces to English shores. The survivors sailed home in roughly 24. The Viking Age did not end with a great victory or a heroic last stand. It ended on an English riverbank, far from the sea. 11 Viking leaders, not one of them ever subscribed to anything. Look how that turned out. Hit the button and we will see you next week.